please, Errol Seaman.
So, my wife's brother-in-law, his name's Danny. He's on his way to meet a client in Cambridge. And he's running late, really late. So as he approaches the house, he sees the man outside waiting for him. Sorry I'm late, mate. You know, really bad traffic, really, I couldn't help it. That's okay. Come inside. So the man starts to lead Danny towards the house. And as they approach, the man stops abruptly. Hang on. Are you okay with dogs? And he's like, yeah, I'm all right with dogs. Yeah, I mean, as long as they're cool, yeah, I'm all right. I mean, I'm fine. Okay, come inside. So Danny proceeds to walk inside the house, behind the man. Then all of a sudden, it's got a door similar to this door here. The dog jumps at the door, at the window. It's got a big, massive head. It's salivating from its mouth. Danny stops, pulls back. And the man says to him, I thought you was okay with dogs. He's like, yeah, but look, Danny, the dog's fine. But what you have to do when you go inside, you have to say hello to the dog. Danny's like, what are you talking about? Say hello to the dog. It's all right. So he's gone in and he sees the dog. Hello! The dog went crazy. The guy says to him, no. Are you mad? You don't do it like that. His name's Bruce. You have to say, hello, Bruce. Stan's like walked in. All right, Bruce. It goes crazy. No, Danny. This isn't East London. All right, Bruce. You have to say, hello, Bruce. Stanley goes up to the dog. Hello, Bruce. And Bruce goes onto the sofa, sits down, curls up, and chills. So after about an hour, Danny does his business with the man. After about an hour, it's time to leave. All right, I better be going now. Okay. And Danny, the man is standing between Danny and Bruce, lying, and he holds out his hand at the back. And he says to Danny, shake my hand, but don't let Bruce see you. He's quite defensive. And if you touch me, he'll go for you. Stan's about to walk out. The man stops him again. You have to say goodbye to Bruce. Goodbye, Bruce. Then Bruce flips over on his back with his legs up in the air. You have to rub his tummy. What are you talking about, rub his tummy? Danny! So Danny goes over, rub Bruce's tummy, and he leaves the house safely. But here's the point. Effective communication is about your audience receiving your message exactly as you intended it to be received. And it's very easy for communication to be misinterpreted, just like the communication between Bruce and Danny. The beauty is, we all have this rich tapestry of sources to draw from, which are our personal stories, which we can utilize in order to make our communication more effective. Think about from the time you're small, growing up all the way, we've got a multitude of stories. This is my personal opinion. I liken our lives to like a hit novel or like a blockbuster movie. And I think we've got multitudes of stories to draw from. Okay? Danny's story wasn't even my story. It's a story of someone I was associated with. But we can utilize these particular stories to really add massive value to our speaking and allowing us to connect with our audience more effectively, as I said. It's a privilege to stand on the stage. I really look at it, anytime I'm in front of the audience, I really look at it as a position of responsibility. I know that there's power, real power in my words, and I know that the words can be used to lead people towards empowerment. And just as easily, you can lead people towards this empowerment if you're so attuned. So, as I said, I work with kids. I teach in post-16 education, so they're all 16 years and older most of the time. And I really do. I utilize stories whenever possible in order to make sure that these guys are getting the message with whatever I can do. Utilizing my experiences, utilizing them in story form to lead them in a particular direction. Quite a good job. I really enjoy it. A few years ago, we was on our way we was on a hike in the Peak District. Anyone been to the Peak District by a show of hands? Really beautiful part of the country, especially if you're an outdoorsy person like me. I really love it. Anyway, so we're on this hike and we're nearing the end of the first day of the hike. We've been hiking for like 8 or 9 hours straight. And as we get to this ridge and you can see the valley below you. And you can see the campsite up ahead. So as we approach, I'm with a group in front and I've got a second group behind me with 2 of the expedition instructors. And on the right-hand side, there's a road which bends all the way around, leading directly to the campsite. Straightforward road, it's a little bit longer. And on the left-hand side, there's a big field. And the field's filled with cows and sheep. And they've got their young. They've got their calves and their lambs. You know how animals are when they've got their babies around them, right? So I say to my students, listen, we're taking the road, we're following it around, we're going straight around there. They're like, no, sir, come on, man, let's just cut through the field. It's just there, it's direct. No, we're going this way. We're following this particular route, not that route. Let's just be safe. So it takes us about 15 minutes. We get back to the campsite. My students run off to explore the area. Me, I'm tired. Bag off, shoes off, socks off. I just want to relax. Then all of a sudden, Errol, come quickly. Camille's being attacked by a cow. I put my shoes on. I run over to the field. When I get to the field, Camille's sitting on this big rock. Blood's pouring from her nose. She's sobbing uncontrollably. One of the instructors is closing the gate to the field. Another one of the instructors is on the other side of the field, the animal with a big stick, warding off the animals, keeping them back. He throws a stick down, jumps over the fence. What the hell happened? One of my students, Abdul, is like, sir, listen, me and Camille, we're walking at the front and we're leading the group, and like we walked near this cow and like it bumped us, innit? I moved out of the way, but Camille, she was scared, she was shook, so it bumped her again and she fell down. And it went over her and it started stomping on her face. Boop, 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 boop. She was all right. She had a bloody nose, it's swollen. She never looked at hamburgers the same way ever again. But repeat after me, guys. Right path. Right path. We need to understand that our stories, if they're utilized correctly, can lead our audience down the correct path towards their empowerment, towards your particular objective when you stand up here and you speak to your audience. So what makes a great story? Give me some suggestions. What makes a great story? What's involved? Humor. Powerful. Let me talk about humor for a minute. Humor is, so imagine, I'm teaching like 20 16 to 19-year-olds, and I've got them for 2 hours in a classroom. When I teach, I teach kind of as an entertainer. I don't even approach it from a studious point of view where we're going to learn all these facts today. Point number 1, let's talk. No. I want to be able to engage them on a particular level, and I utilize stories, amongst other things, to make sure they're in an engaged state. And once they're in an engaged state, just slide in the learning underneath to allow them to learn from that particular perspective. But definitely humor. Other things from that. What makes a good story? Passion. What else? Emotions. What else? Drama. All these points, intrigue, suspense. Our stories can be motivational, they can be inspirational. They can draw all these things together, and we can weave them together to provide value for our audience. Look at your personal stories. Personal stories are so brilliant because they're unique. The Brewster dog story, the cow story, unique stories that you won't hear anywhere else because they're your personal stories. Look for stories from your children, your pets, your family, when you're at work, when you're at play. The stories are all there. You just need to be cognizant of when they come to you, jot them down, write them down. I'll talk about that process a little bit later. From a technical point of view, we want to include dialogue within our stories. Very important. Why dialogue? Dialogue will take you from a third-person point of view with just narrative and put you into the context from a first-person perspective. You're talking from a first-person perspective, and it allows the audience to put themselves in that particular place, and it puts them at a higher level as far as the learning. Look at the Bruce the dog story. We had dialogue between Bruce and Danny, between Danny and the man, but then you also had self-dialogue with Danny. Self-dialogue is dialogue as well. So when you're writing your stories, what you want to do is attempt to incorporate dialogue wherever feasible within the story. When you're in a third-person narrative, you're almost telling the story from a past tense. But when we incorporate dialogue, it puts you in the present tense. Break the sameness. What do I mean by break the sameness? Change, pacing, toning. We want to be able to bring our stories to life. So how can we bring our stories to life? We can bring our characters into the story, and then we bring our characters to life using accents, dialects, pacing of their tonality, of their whatever you can contrast, find that particular part that you can make a contrast. If someone's big and someone's small, someone's fast, someone's slow. Contrast. What does contrast create? Have you guys gone through this? Contrast creates captivation. What does it create? Captivation. Contrast will hold your audience and it will lock them into your particular story because now you know. Think about if I came in and you're all clapping and stuff.
Okay, my name is Errol. I'm going to talk about this dog named Bruce. He's an aggressive dog. Wolf.
Yeah, it's boring. Yeah, you don't want to approach it like you want to bring energy into your stories with including these particular different. Listen, you will never know who is in your audience that is going through particular struggles that is just waiting to hear your story on that particular day. I look at it as so important. You will never know on a particular time that this person's sitting there going through a challenge. The poet and philosopher, Henry David Thoreau, he's got a quote that I love. He said, "Most men live lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song still in them." Powerful quote, right? What is that next person going through next to you? That same challenge that you've been through, that same challenge that you've overcome can be the exact same challenge in kind that somebody else is going through. And we want to make sure that we can utilize, and it's like a helping hand from up high. Like you come in and that story is utilized to bring them out of that particular miasma that they might be in. Let me give you an example of helping hands. When I was about 9 years old, I had this goldfish called Moby. He was my best friend. I used to run home from school every day just to feed him. Like, "Mom, I'm home!" And I go beside a tank and I just watch Moby just. Hello. Moby used to like to do the thing where he used to pick up stones and spit them out. That was his special thing, picking up stones and spitting them out. I thought it was special at the time anyway. So one day I come home from school, rush over to the tank. Moby doesn't quite look right. It's kind of doing this herky-jerky movement. And I look closely, and stupid fish has got a stone stuck in his mouth. "Mom! What? What is it?" "Moby's got a stone stuck in his mouth." "What? A stone? Stupid fish." "Wait till your daddy come home. So a few minutes later, my dad comes home from work. Dad, Moby swallowed a stone. Stupid fish. But my dad is a problem solver. So this is what he did. He gets a chair from the dining room table, places it beside the tank. Get a towel, boy. Wet it. Cold water. And he sits on the chair, and he takes the towel, and he places the towel on his lap. And he gets the net, and he scoops the fish out of the water and places it on his lap, and proceeds to attempt to get the stone out with his fingers. Now, all things considered, this ain't that much of a bad idea. The problem is this. My dad has probably the thickest fingers you'll ever see in your life. I'm not exaggerating. You look at my dad's hands, you'll be like, damn, you got some big hands. Like, he's got monster hands. So here is these big Mars bar fingers attempting to get a 0.5 centimeter pebble out of the mouth of a 3-inch fish. I nearly get it, boy. So eventually, he gets the pebble out and he places what I can only imagine was a very traumatized fish. But where was the hand coming from? He never knew. Seriously, help can come from any source. Don't underestimate the power of your story and the power of it to help that person next to you. I got home from school the next day, Moby died, but we had a ceremony. We buried him in an underarm deodorant box in the garden, said prayers and stuff. True. So, when you are writing your stories, what's the process that I go through? First of all, just write the story when the story comes. In fact, before I talk about that, when you have an idea for the story, jot it down. Write it down. Certain stories are going to be so impactful to you that you won't forget them. And there'll be other stories that people will tell you and you'll remember them. But certain stories will just come from a glimpse of inspiration. And you think, you remember when that happened that long ago? But trust me, and I've done this myself, sometimes you don't write it down in that moment, and as humans, we're not perfect, and sometimes you just won't forget it until it flashes again. So make a note of it. I have a little storybook. I utilize my phone, and I write just a general outline. Don't have to write down the whole story, but write down a general outline of what that particular story was about, then you can go to it later and write it up when you've got time. And just write the story for the first time. Write it out fully. Just write it. No constraints, no holds barred, just write the story. But the thing is, when you're telling stories, what can get in the way often is a lot of extracurricular fluff, should I say, that has no relevance. So think about the Bruce the dog story. I said Danny was going to meet a client, but his form of business is no relevance in the telling of the story. It's just another thing added on. So once I write the story, I let it lie for a few days, literally a couple days, and then I go back to the story later on, and then I look and do an editing process where I look at the story and I think, what is not in this particular story that has no value? What constitutes value? What provides entertainment value from my point of view? Entertainment value can come in the form of humor. It can come in the form of motivation, inspiration. It can be educational. But you want to make sure whatever you're putting in there has the potential to give the message to your audience without anything obstructing it. Very key. So, energy. Once you have that story written and you're happy with that story, you want to be able to perform that story with maximum energy. Maximum what? Energy, maximum energy, because there's nothing worse than having a really good quality, good story with substance and it's performed with poor energy. But energy doesn't have to be, just like Anik was saying, if you're quite introverted as opposed to extroverted, it doesn't mean that you have to perform it out of your character that you're not comfortable with. But it may need that in certain respects. But you don't perform a playful story dramatically. If you've got a playful story, then you can perform it in a playful manner. If you have a dramatic story, perform it in a dramatic manner. But energy and the energy that you bring to the table will absolutely be determined how great your story will come across. I'm going to tell this story. I went to school in America. I was quite fortunate that I got a scholarship, a 4-year scholarship in America. I went to university for free. It was fun. And so I did 2 years in Alabama and 2 years in Georgia, in this school called North Georgia College and State University. And one of my coaches, let's just say he had a bit of a temper. Like, we would just sometimes be practicing, and we're shooting, and sometimes we might be goofing off, not practicing with any real energy. Then you'd hear from across the gym, "On the line!" We're like, what the hell? And what he'd do, he'd make us line up along the baseline in the sports hall. "Y'all think you're big time, don't ya? Big time scholarship athletes. You don't want to practice? Well, you gonna run." And he'd make us run sprints for the rest of practice. Up and down all day long. So, on this particular day, it's a few days before quite a big game that we've got. And we're practicing not with the correct energy, not with the way that you want to approach a big game that's coming up in the very near future. "On the line!" And he makes us line up on the line. Now, at this particular practice now, coach's son, Jake, was at practice. He was about 6 years old at the time, little dude. He was quite a nuisance. And he'd be running around. Coach is talking to us. And he'd be like, Dad, not now, son. I'm busy." And he'd look at us. "You think I won't run your bus before a big game? I want to make you run." And he'd be like, Dad, Jake, not now, son. I'm busy." Jake had grabbed his dad around the legs and bit him in the nuts. Literally. And we're standing there like, so we played the game. And we're terrible. Like, we got beat by about 20 points. And I had a particularly bad game as well. And we're in the locker room afterwards. And if you know anything about a locker room, after a game, the locker room's just energetic, everyone's, music's playing. Listen, when you get beat by 20 points, you better shut up. So we're sitting down, everyone's quiet. No one's saying a word. We knew we'd messed up. Then all of a sudden, coach bursts in. Bang! "Y'all think you're professionals already? Well, y'all gonna be professional runners tomorrow morning, I guarantee you that." Then he turns and looks at me. "Ha, you think you're big time, huh, Seaman? I'm gonna send your ass back to the Queen." And in our room, we've got this whiteboard, and it had like a central pivot so it could rotate 360 degrees. And he's so mad, you can tell he's about to hit. "Oh, y'all gonna run all day." And he kicks it, it flips, and it hits him on the head. And he's so mad, he goes back and punches it. As he punches it, it flips and hits him in the nuts. Energy. You want to bring energy, bring your story to life. Characters, accents, dialects, whatever you've got to draw from, the contrast. It's all there. Include the narrative, but also include the dialogue. Self-dialogue, dialogue between people and animals, wherever it can be to enhance your story. And that's all for me. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.